Hi there, YouTube. This is video 2 on why you should be religious. This is not necessarily an argument for why you should be religious, but it's trying to get you to think about and / refute a common reason why people are no longer religious, why they got away from the religion. A lot of people have experienced really horrible, bad, evil things in this world, and after experiencing such bad things, they can't believe that an all-good and all-powerful God would create such a world. So they stop believing in this God, and obviously God doesn't exist because there's such horrible, bad things here. And basically it's called the problem of evil, and this argument has been around for a while, and it goes something like this. An all-good and powerful God would not let evil into the world. That's premise 1. Premise 2, guess what? Evil exists in the world. Therefore, God does not exist. And it's basically a pretty logical argument, and most people who try to refute the argument argue against premise 1, saying that the presence of evil is good, or the presence of evil is necessary because of free will, or these other arguments. But they don't really convince the person who has suffered, I guess, a hell of a lot. It's not that sensitive to what they're feeling, so it's not really convincing. One thing that's convincing to me is called the problem of good, which is kind of the inverse of such an argument. Now, the problem of good says, in order to use, it's basically saying that the problem of evil is using these objective terms of morality, objective good, objective evil, that what you're feeling is objectively bad and horrible, because it is. But in order to have these objective terms of good and evil, you must first admit God exists. Because without God's existence, what you're left with is moral relativity. And now these are subjective terms of morality. If God doesn't exist, now all you have is how you feel about a certain action. If you ever read Nietzsche and God is dead, and he foretold the moral relativity that we would have today, and most people do ascribe to this moral relativity. Now, if you have that, then you can no longer use morals as a basis to argue God does not exist. Now, the problem of good argument kind of goes something like this. Any argument that uses objective terms of good and evil must first admit God exists to be logically consistent. Premise 2. The problem of evil itself uses objective terms of good and evil. Therefore, the problem of evil argument must first admit that God exists in order to be logically consistent. So, I guess the weight of the problem of evil is objective good and evil. These are horrible things we're experiencing, and for that to have the weight to disprove God, they must be objective. It must be objectively evil. If it's subjectively evil, well, then it doesn't really matter. I mean, that's just how you feel about a certain action. Some sadists might find it really good. They really like pain. But when we're saying the problem of evil, we're appealing to this horrible situation. But it's only horrible if morals are objectives. And there's only moral objectives if there's a God. Because otherwise, all you're left with is how you feel about a certain action. I hope this is a little enlightening to some of you who have really held on to the problem of evil. Just think about, why is it so evil? Where did you get this concept of evil? And if you got this concept of evil, can you get it without God and without objective morals? I hope that gets you thinking a little bit, and you feel free to ask me any questions about this, but I think this is the best argument against the problem of evil. Everything else, like free will and stuff, you can kind of rebuttal pretty well with saying that free will, I don't know, most atheists don't really like the free will, kind of call it a cop-out. But this is definitely better, because it gets at the root of the problem of evil. Alright, thanks.